Kudilar television channel, timed at 21 hours GMT, but being broadcast at 15 minutes after the scheduled time. This is Thursday, 4th of August 2022, and the day in the UK, that is, ended politically with the staging of what they call the grilling on Sky Television News of the two Conservative Party candidates for becoming, quote, leader. The result ended with the show of hands by the audience members that were present in the studio, while Rishi Sunak, as the second person to be questioned by K. Barley. The show of hands took place after K. Barley said that this is television, that there has been a disaster. Whatever that disaster might be, we might be able to find that we actually discussed this. Essentially, the actual broadcast was held with both candidates, Sunak and Liz Truss, being interviewed by K. Barley separately. So there was no real debate, there was no actual investigation. There was no investigation into the comparative abilities on the part of these two candidates. And we shall go into some of the issues about that very soon. Going back to the contextual examination that we made and have been making, so the interviews took place separately, at least that's how they were shown. And the end of the interview, which was the last part before the program ended, or the program as broadcast ended, the last part was featured Rishi Sunak. So there was a bias in favor of Rishi Sunak in the so-called Conservative Party roles. How long this will take before they actually announce the kind of percentage, if there was a percentage, I will come to the discussing percentage in the studio, etc., in due course, because this particular kind of what they call grilling, it was no grilling at all. It was no grilling. There was no independent question asked of any of the members. And every single questionnaire, remember this was happening in the French-speaking channel. The questions that, all the questions that were put to Sunak and Truss were questions that were kind of manufactured. And the so-called lawyer representing my kind of resistance against the Tower Hamlets community housing the crooks. And on the other hand, they doing pages and pages of it. So So, what will be happening with this particular what will be happening with this particular kind of contest is looking significantly, remarkably less certain in terms of the outcome as to whether Lizzie Sunak or Rishi Sunak will blow. So, Rishi Sunak had the most hands up in favor of him by the audience in the studio where the event was being recorded. And K. Barley said words to the effect that, my goodness, meaning that the majority for the advice of, as it was, I need some actual water to swallow that tablet. And I said, so the Rishi Sunak supporters surprised even K. Barley. My goodness. But at the same time, the moment that Acid Bulas was saying in house, and what has happened is that the whittling down of the candidates in the Conservative Party election to only two has meant that there is really a huge gap here, huge absence of political rigor, concern, anxiety, etc. that is happening in this country. The gap is until. So when she said that, my goodness, or words to that effect, that suggested that she didn't expect so many of the people in the studio to raise their hands in favor of Rishi Sunak. And then she immediately followed that by asking how many supported Liz Truss getting the vote and becoming the leader of the Conservative Party. And consequently, under the unconstitutional constitution, Boris Johnson, etc., were being kind of produced as shadows during the kind of so-called grilling. We shall talk about the grilling and the votes a bit later. First of all, let's check if a guest is appearing from Bangladesh. The guest is supposed to appear from Bangladesh, but if they don't, then we continue without the guest. Now go back to Pakistan, and what happened in Pakistan during the last 48 hours? The publication of the so-called Electoral Commission report, which according to most of the mainstream has been a damned report. So, what is happening with the situation in Pakistan is that after the Financial Times in London ran a very strange piece, highly exaggerating the role of the Pakistan Election Commission or the Election Board of Pakistan, the surrogates in Pakistan misunderstood, typically, predictably, misunderstood that and attached more significance to the Financial Times than the substance of the assertion against and about Imran Khan warranted or justified. So eventually the report was published and it listed a number of people who contributed to Imran Khan's political party, and therefore, on that basis, the Election Commission morons concluded or asserted that these people were foreigners. They were not foreigners at all. These are what is called, or what used to be called, overseas Pakistani. That is, Pakistani origin people, Pakistan-born people who have left for various purposes and settled in Canada mainly and in the USA, for example. And are earning enough money to be able to spare sufficient funds to the party that they support. And that is what has happened with the Imran Khan Tehreek-e-Insaf. That is not foreign funding. But they are milking the crooks in power in Pakistan's central government and their supporters in the mainstream media and their colluders and collaborators internationally, like the financial crimes. They are milking that stupidity for all its worthlessness. And as we have been saying, on the evidence, because we have no absolutely party or any party in Pakistan or in Bangladesh or in India or anywhere else on the face of the earth. What we are doing is basically diagnosing the situation in Pakistan from a journalistic point of view. Journalistic has to be distinguished from the drunken behavior in the Houses of Parliament bars by some journalists and lobby. They are called the lobby journalists. We are doing independent, rigorous analysis of the evidence available. And the evidence has always been, every item of the evidence that has been available is evidence that we spend a very significant amount of time and resource in obtaining and then verifying, checking the verifiability and all the rest of it, so that nobody, absolutely nobody, can challenge the veracity, the authenticity, and the accuracy and the integrity of our information that we actually publish on this platform. So we go back to the case of Baby Angel Geronimo. Baby Angel Geronimo is the world's bestest witness to the corruption that is perpetrated, has been perpetrated by the two kind of families in Pakistan. One is the Sindhi-based Asif Ali Zardari Bimari, and Asif Ali Zardari, the Bimari, and his cabal in Sindh, and also his counterpart in the Muslim League, Nawaz Sharif. Now, the allegations that they have invented or tried to invent all the last 48 hours or so, or the last week, if we say the base date is the date when the Financial Crimes published this stupid piece about the foreign funding, which is a slogan that had been taken straight out of the mouth of the detractors of Imran Khan and the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. There was no foreign funding, not by 1,000 kind of stretches of the distortion. I mean, the they said that these allegations or alleged foreign funds contaminated the integrity of both the party and of its chairman or the leading figure in it, Imran Khan. As the Pakistan media is sleeping, and when it publishes it, because it has to publish every day in Pakistan, almost literally every day, there have been rallies featuring Imran Khan at the center, or rallies featuring the defamatory latest government defamation perpetrated against Imran Khan and the Tehreek-e-Insaf party. Now, I have never met Imran Khan and I have had no communication with him. I have been observing him from the 1960s when eventually in Pakistan, Gowal Takht. So, what the malleable and morally compromised media in parts of the media in Pakistan have been trying to do is to find any shred of excuse to give the status to the election commission that the election commission never actually deserved, and it deserves even less today, by publishing this stupid line of idiotic so-called allegations against Imran Khan and the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party. They will not pass. They shall not pass. That is to say, they shall not survive. They shall not kind of overcome the allegations that are mounting against them. And eventually, the Tehreek-e-Insaf party and Imran Khan and the activists in the party will actually overcome the opposition of the two families of 30 years length. And it is to be seen what are the various reforms, demands, etc., they actually put in as part of the legislation. Now, these people are tempting fate, because in Pakistan there has been absolutely no one left, no politically conscious, remotely politically conscious person left that would agree with them or would agree with the election commission or agree with the so-called media, ethnic media in this country that actually is taking a hostile line or indifferent line at best about Imran Khan. We shall talk about Imran Khan's standalone Imran Khan's political role, him and the party that he is sharing the responsibility with for this particular evening, overnight, because there are invaluable kind of insights into the behavior of the individual leaders of the two corrupt gangs. But when it came to Karachi, Imran Khan suddenly found the So we have, in the overall political environment in the Western, in Asia, and particularly in the subcontinent, we have a situation where the wrongdoers are in power, with the exception of Imran Khan and the Tehreek-e-Insaf party doing the movement. In both India and in Bangladesh, and there is hardly any political opposition on the streets or in the streets. That is a significant factor. And as Imran Khan has been saying, reiterating what he and the Tehreek-e-Insaf are doing, and the increasing numbers of the members are doing, is what should have been done 75 years ago. As I keep saying, and that is the reason why the Khudilar campaign is observing what is going on in Pakistan, because Pakistan is not just something that has been like this forever. Pakistan came to being only a few decades ago, and the existence of Pakistan has become increasingly less relevant to the people who want to make careers. And that is why they haven't actually, the thieves, the two groups of thieves in Pakistan, the Sharif and the Zardari Bimari, and any number of their acolytes, have been able to enjoy the billionaire getaway. Now, I have never been to Brazil, so I don't know. In terms of climate, in terms of the heat, how suitable or advisable it is for people to sit in the sun and seek the sun. But I believe that this is a sun worship, in the way that the British actually promote women taking off their clothes literally and going on the beaches and going near the in the outside, kind of finding outside location and lying, exposing their flesh to the dangerous rays of the sun. And there is nothing in the papers, nothing in the media that actually warns these people about the danger that they face by exposing themselves to this completely dangerous, irresponsible thing. They are doing this irresponsible behavior. Now, we can't see any sign of Qutub from Bangladesh. Tried again pressing the particular button, but it doesn't seem to have worked. So, if Qutub is watching, he will have to watch or listen remotely without directly appearing on the screen. Now, in the debate that took place under the control of the Sky News and as fronted by K. Barley, I think on that basis alone, that is, of course, not going to be repeated in the actual count or actual voting of the by the Conservatives, or it may be. But essentially, the appearance was that, as I observed it, I observed about 75% of it. And on that basis, I think that Rishi Sunak, on that basis, in that performance, came across as 20% Liz Truss, and 80%, I would say, Rishi Sunak. We shall come back to the analysis of the number and the votes and polling results, etc. But I think on the evidence of that particular showing, Rishi Sunak may surprise and stage the kind of surprise and beat Elizabeth Truss. Okay, going to Pakistan, this electoral commission, electoral board, Pakistan Electoral Board, the so-called report that it has published against Imran Khan and the Tehreek-e-Insaf is a criminal act, is a criminality that we think should be prosecuted by duly independent and competent legal authorities having the jurisdiction across the archipelagos of the Philippines. Because the actual answers that Rishi Sunak gave to K. Barley's questions were quite clearly, very highly rehearsed and very ready and fast. And Liz Truss, compared to Rishi Sunak's performance and promptness with which Rishi Sunak answered, Liz Truss failed miserably. And in the case of Pakistan and Imran Khan and the response and the rebuttal and the rejection of the Electoral Commission crooks, it was Imran Khan coming across 95% with confidence and integrity, and the Pakistan Election Commission and their crooked colluders in power still came across with 5% credibility. Moving on to the issue of the London Bar of Hamlers and the propaganda line that Lutfur Rahman has made a decision to help the most vulnerable people in the Bar of Hamlers. Now that is a lie. Lutfur Rahman is the one that has been causing and has caused and will continue to cause the maximum number of vulnerable people. Lutfur Rahman has not only not supported or helped the vulnerable people, Lutfur Rahman has created too much vulnerabilities on the parts of the people in Tar Hamlers. Lutfur Rahman has not done anything that is original, that is anything that is independent, that actually shows he's behaving in that independent way, was actually part of the independence actions that are taking place in the Kerala regime in the south of England. There was a sound just now outside, and we don't know what that sound was of. Essentially, the sound was not ethical or moral. And the reason why the sound was not ethical or moral is because under the kind of formal titles of Boris Johnson still being Prime Minister and the role of the Conservative Home website, these particular fans or supporters of Lutfur Rahman could not be seen according to the wishes of these people who paraded them. Now, the other thing is that because it's a very small number of the whole population of the United Kingdom that will decide who becomes the Conservative Party leader and who actually has the ability to actually make a success of their ambitions. So it's a low-key affair. Both Sunak and Truss have come across with the lowest possible denominator of their kind of manifesto or their kind of prospects once they're settled in the United Kingdom. Settled meaning that at least Shamima Begum could live independently and be closer in terms of contacting her parents and near ones. And I think that one Liz Truss says dismissively in reply or in response to the questions put very tactfully by Liz Truss that the response will be so we shall be kind of bringing an end to this particular edition. It's only half an hour, 32 minutes. And we shall continue on these themes and the other outstanding items that need updating. This is 21:47 hours GMT, that is 22:47 hours UK time on Thursday, the 4th of August 2022.